the way we tell our stories shows who we are, individually and collectively. And the choices that we make while creating the stories define its path and then make a difference in history overall. And I'm a storyteller. I'm someone who tells stories. I'm a photographer. I'm a photojournalist. So in May 2018, I was working with a major publication, an international publication, and we did a lot of work in the streets, covering the protests. I did what every photojournalist did during those days. And so we also did a lot of work trying to get into the parliament office of Nikol Pashinyan, who is now the Prime Minister of Armenia. And so we did get access. We managed to interview him, and I took portraits of him. And after this, the journalist that I was working with asked if he could also interview Anna Hakopian, the wife of Nikol Pashinyan, and we got permission, so we took a taxi to the Pashinyan family home, which is now home to another family, which is another beautiful story. So we were very welcomed by the family, by Anna and the two daughters, Shushan and Arpi, who are the two younger daughters of the four Pashinyan children. And it was a very beautiful and warm welcome. After that, the journalist that I was working with started to interview Anna, and I walked off, as I often do, trying to find and understand my story, trying to see how it comes together with the story that I'm building overall. And in this case, that was the story of the Velvet Revolution that we all went through. And so I walked after the girls, and I got to know them, and we spent some time just getting used to each other's presence. And at some point, they went through the corridor into the balcony, which was also the bedroom of their brother. And Shushan started to play on the phone. Now, Arpi was playing on the phone. Arpi is the little one, and Shushan was with her, taking care of her. And I just sat down on the floor, tried to understand the situation and the kind of images that I could take. And this was the first time that I saw this wall behind them with so many things written on it, many of them just animation characters, things that represented their childhood. And something started to come to me, and it was revealing itself. And I continued to follow the girls now into the bedroom where they played, and then I saw that there were more of these walls. Almost the whole apartment was filled with them, and then I saw that main one where you could see the names of football players and animation characters and imprints of their hands and some little monster. And above all of this noise, there was the sign of peace. And so when I saw this, I thought to myself, after all, as we try to tell something that we're feeling and that we're seeing, well, one of the most important things for us as photojournalists is to represent the emotions that we're seeing and sometimes that we're also feeling in the best way possible. And so this image, I thought, really represented it. And it was just everything that these children were going through, which was also what the Armenian people were going through and had been going through for so many years ahead of this revolution, and they had experienced it firsthand. They started to draw and write on these walls when their father was away, when he was in jail or when he was hiding. And their mother just allowed it to them because she felt it was a form of relief for them. And so they started to draw and write on all of the walls. And so that became representative for me. And I continued taking pictures, also thinking to myself and realizing that I wasn't in the street anymore. I wasn't in this place, in those streets, and in those locations where we all go for a thing, right? That's the direct path that we take in order to show the revolution. But I was somewhere else, and it was just another place that we went with the journalist, and I realized, and I thought to myself that so many times we have to really go out of our way, out of the path that is straight, in order to come back and actually show and represent the real meaning of our story. And so I continued working, knowing now exactly what I needed to show and exactly what I needed to tell. I also noticed, and I also thought to myself, that how interesting is it that this was a voice, these were voices of children that we don't often allow to be heard. And they told this story as well as anybody in the street could tell it. So I thought that we really need to do this more often. As reporters, as photographers, we have to do our best to let the voices of children and let the voices of women be heard as much as we can. And so I continued working there, seeing not only that, but also the childlike joy that these children were expressing and experiencing, which made me feel of that joy that so many of us felt on the last day of the revolution, on the 8th of May. That was everything. They lived everything that each one of us did, and they really expressed it. And so that, after all, the children and their experiences was the reason of our revolution, wasn't it? It wasn't so much of our wording and so much of what we said, the children, the future, right? And so I would just like to say that if we worry so much about our future, we need to pay attention when our future draws a sign of peace on a noisy wall. Thank you.